Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Sales Revival course. My name is Grafton Whyte. I am the director of the business school in Namibia Business School, and I'm also the chairperson of AABS, chairman of AABS, the Association of African Business School. It's a pleasure to be with you today for this conference, and we're touching on a subject that I believe is really important, especially for I was going to say a continent, but globally as we go into, or we're trying to emerge from this COVID pandemic. I think this topic is particularly relevant at this time. So how to manage sales and resource mobilization teams in a post-COVID environment. The theme that I want to touch upon today is Gigonomics for not-for-profit organizations or non-profit organizations, depending on what you've got in front of you, what you're used to. So how to create a sustainable business structure and to monetize your products and services. The focus here is that we developed, as a business school, we developed this Gigonomics course for entrepreneurs and people who are looking to develop products for an entrepreneurial enterprise or endeavor. And we see this, we've adapted it and seen it's particularly relevant for CSO organizations or not-for-profit organizations. So I wanted to take you through this and see if we can help organizations in resource mobilization mode to really help them to deal with the issues and problems that they're facing with at this time. So moving on. The purpose of this presentation is to provide a simple framework for NPOs that has two important facets to it. First of all, it will help you generate business opportunities and that you can employ within your NPO organization, because clearly one of the challenges that's being faced at the moment is that NPO organizations, because of COVID, are finding themselves in a situation where the usual sources of funding are drying up, and they now have to become much more business focused, or at least have part of their operation needs to be business focused and identify and they need to be able to identify business opportunities. Secondly, we want you to be able to, having identified those opportunities, to be able to create a sustainable business structure that will allow you to monetize your opportunity. Okay, so the main framework here that we're looking at is, we've called it Gigonomics, and we'll come to that in more detail. This presentation, what we will do, we'll look at 4 areas. We look at the key capacity areas within the Gigonomics framework. Then we'll have a little discussion about pitfalls and solutions, so things that you need to be aware of, or things that you need to take into account as you try to develop and monetize your operations. And we'll have a case study with just a simple case study of example of a business school, and free course access is something that we refer to at the end. Okay, having said that, we refer to that at the end. This is just a little reminder that the Gigonomics course is something that's been developed. It is 6 online courses. I know it's marked here as a costing, but we made it available for free online at our YouTube site under NBS, Namibia Business School. So it's something that you can pick up afterwards, after this session. Okay, so the key capacity areas. This is the Gigonomics spiral. We developed this, again, as I said, to help entrepreneurs, people who want to start up their businesses, to identify what are the key competencies, what are the key capacity areas that they need to focus on to start a business, and not only to start the business, but to keep it running and make it sustainable. And we've identified 6 key areas. These 6 areas are identified here in this spiral. And as it says, it's a spiral, so you tend to, the ability to start anywhere on the spiral is reasonable. But let's start at the first end. We're saying your product or service. You need to be able to define what your product or service that you want to offer the market. And we've identified tools in each of these areas. So one of the tools that you would use here is maybe a design thinking tool to help you identify a specific niche of product or service that could be used to support your MPO activity. The second area is then operations. Once you've defined your product or service, you need to define the operations that will bring that product or service to market. So that's another key area that we have identified. And then if you're going to grow your business to any size at all, at some point you're going to need to recruit people. So there's some insights on the human capital and how to manage that. And then arguably one of the most important areas are your customers and markets. So who are your customers? How are you going to service those customers? You know, pre-sales, if you like, engaging with the customer and after sales service. You know, how are you going to do that? What do you need to do? What do you need to focus on to really make it work for your customers? And then we like to talk about this in sort of football terms. You know, you need to be able to keep score. You know, if you're going to run a business, finance is about keeping score. So yes, it's nice to and important that you make a profit, but it's also about keeping score, actually keeping track of your finances, where the money's going, etc. And then finally, the other area number 6 that we think is absolutely key for your business is your strategy. What is the strategy you're going to pursue for sustainability? We do not want you to be in a position where you're starting a business and it runs for a little while and then falls away or disintegrates. So strategy is really important for the sustainability of your business venture. Okay, and remember, all of this is within the context of supporting your not-for-profit business or your non-profit business, and this is the focus of this presentation. So starting with the product or service. Product service, develop your business ideas to suit your market. Yeah, what is it that you can do when you look at your MPO activities? There are some competencies that you would have developed and learnt along the way. How can you turn these into a product or a service? And as I've talked about earlier, the sort of things that you need to tools that we have identified here would be the design thinking approaches, design thinking tools that help you develop it. But I don't want to go into the details of the tools in each of the cycles here, of the spiral, in the Gigonomics spiral, but really want to just help you to focus on what are kind of pitfalls you need to think about when you are developing your business venture, your business opportunity, developing your business idea as a support mechanism for your MPO activities. The sort of things you need to be careful of, and I listed these under pitfalls, is that, you know, when you're developing a product service, you need to have control over that product or service. There's no point developing a product or service that the MPO then controls and runs, because their motivation and their way of thinking is going to be completely different. You really need to get to grips with the idea that running a business spin-off from an MBO or a social enterprise is really a different mindset. And if you try to integrate it into the MPO structure, you'll probably find that it comes a cropper. It will predispose the opportunity to failure. So one of the pitfalls that I'm trying to avoid is allowing the product or service that you've now developed for a commercial point of view to be managed or controlled by the MPO. That's not advisable. The next pitfall to take cognizance of, and one that is often fallen into, is the idea of developing a product by committee. Products developed by committee tend to be focused on people's perceptions of what they think the market should want, rather than creating a product that is fit for purpose and has a clear target market. Now, remember, your beneficiaries and your market or your customers may be two different groups. So you really need to discipline yourself to think about those things. Give you an example here. So, for instance, this may be sort of old hat now, but MPO that was supporting micro businesses, and lots of business schools and lots of universities had this idea. Initially, funding was all about funding these new businesses that were developed, that were being supported, funding them for equipment, maybe training, but not for premises, not for infrastructure. Yet we found that, and the experience is that the best incubation centres, or MPOs were supporting micro businesses, the best ones are the ones that have some kind of infrastructure or business park in which they can nurture and help the businesses to flourish. So that then became a very successful model, an opportunity for funders or third parties to get into that business. And you notice here that on the top left here, MTC is I believe the sponsor of this business park, and each of the businesses in there pay a small rent towards the running and upkeep of it. So it in itself becomes a profitable venture. So as we talked about product services, we said the next thing is how do you bring that product or service to market? That's talking about operations. So operations, getting your product or service to market. Operations, the pitfalls in the operations is that the process is dictated by the MPO. Remember, the way that things are done in the MPO, not-for-profit organisation, will undoubtedly be different from a profit-motivated organisation, even if it's a small organisation. You need to focus on that. For one, the focus of MPO is usually on the sponsors or on compliance of some sort. The solution to that is to develop an agility focus, develop a focus that is agile. You want to be able to develop your product or service in a way that is focused on the customer, very much customer focused, very much adaptable, agile processes in place that will work, that will help you to deliver the service or the product as efficiently as possible. Okay. The emphasis here is on what does the customer want and making sure you're delivering that specification or that product or service according to the customer needs. So here, this is the final point there that I've listed, is that it's a customer service focus rather than a compliance focus. And this is not usual thinking within your typical MPO. So another example here is an MPO providing compliance training for beneficiary groups. Say, for instance, child protection was a very popular set of training that was being government sponsored. What ended to happen here was the training schedule. There was a fixed training schedule, and people were sent by companies or whoever the beneficiary companies were who wanted to get involved, would send their their staff onto these training courses. So the focus is on, we're providing this training and you join the training. If you're doing it as a business, if and remember, most of these were funded by some kind of beneficiary organization. But if you're starting to do corporate training, if you want to get into corporate, because you've obviously built up a competency, and a lot of these companies had built up a training competency and wanted to offer other training to some of these corporates who were sending delegates to some of these statutory training courses, then you've got to change your focus. You've got to be creating training that is focused on the corporates and the customers, and develop almost a customer service life cycle. That's the word I was looking for, where you understand what the customer needs are, or the corporate needs are, and try and develop a relationship with them over the longer term. Because once you've sold to them once, it's easier to sell to that same company again. So again, but this requires a strong customer focus and flexibility and adaptability to the need of the organization, okay, rather than focusing on what are the compliance requirements for this training, and therefore you put the training on the shelf and say anyone that wants to come on this training, therefore they almost like a supermarket approach, they come in and they take the training off the shelf and they go. So different mindset. The third area of focus for within the Gigonomics spiral is human capital. And we're saying here is that if you're going to grow this business opportunity at all, you've got to at some point start recruiting people specifically for that piece of business. So to harness your energy and others to realize the vision, you're bringing in people to do this. Again, the key pitfall here, and again, let me just pause here. Again, I'm not talking about the tools that will help you develop human capital or human resources. The tools, each of these areas on the cycle, the Gigonomics spiral, each of them have tools, specific tools that will help you develop your capacity and competency in each of these areas. I'm not dealing with those things today, but really just highlighting the pitfalls that that you will need to avoid if you're going to start recruiting people into not servicing or not supporting the main NPO venture, but supporting a profit-making business venture that's supporting the NPO operation. So for instance, sort of pitfalls you need to avoid are moving people from the NPO organization into the profit-making organization. I know this sounds it's excessive. You should be able to use the same people, but again, what we're trying to stress here is that within an NPO, within a social enterprise, there's usually a compliance mentality attitude going on. There is a separation of the beneficiaries and customers, and there's usually a donor focus going on here. These are things that you don't want within your profit-making operation. You need to recruit your own people where you can, and I'm not saying that that's always possible, but where you can, you should recruit your own people who are focused on, again, customer service and delivery to customers, and who are very agile in their thinking. Because remember, good businesses solve problems, solve customer problems. They identify a problem for a customer group and they solve that problem. And that requires agile focus and agile thinking. And what we also found is that it's best to recruit for attitude rather than skills, specific set of skills, because people coming with specific sets of skills will tend to want to work in that area almost exclusively. But if you recruit for attitude and people who have a very positive attitude, a very customer-focused attitude, then they'll be more willing to work in areas or areas that are adjacent to their core area of skills. And they're also maybe more willing to acquire new skills to help them deliver solutions to the customer. And this is the kind of thinking that you want. Give another example here. So it was an NPO providing craft making skills to rural communities. And it was very easy to adapt this to, to see a potential market for to allow the NPO to become self-sufficient. So it was very easy to see this, but to make it work, you couldn't have the people who were creating these artifacts or these small products trying to run it as a business, because they didn't understand how a business ran. So to make it successful, they recruited a business development specialist who helped them to present and deliver the products in a way that made them marketable. Yeah. So again, we're talking about skills and attitudes and people. We're not necessarily talking about huge organizations. We may be talking about a very small operation, but it's bringing the right person in or the right people in that is fit for purpose, gets the job done. Okay. Then important here, customers, markets. I've been speaking about customers all the way through this. Customer service. So not surprising that when we come and talk about markets and customers, that you need to find markets, develop customers, and close the deals. And all of these things need to be done in the most efficient way possible. Things that you need to avoid. Marketing based on awareness of social benefit. So for instance, there are a lot of large NPOs who market themselves on the common good or the social good or the social benefit that they are offering. Yeah, that's great. If you want people to donate money for homelessness or shelter, which is a big one in the UK, that is fantastic. But if you're then going to provide training, let's say in or consultancy services, or you're going to provide in-house housing facility because you've got those skills and those competencies within the organization, you need to narrow your focus in your marketing specifically on the product or service that you're delivering. People may want to donate money because of your social benefit, but they won't buy your products necessarily because of the social benefit. I won't go and buy maybe trading because I want to support the homeless charity or work that you're doing. I may do it once, but I won't become a regular customer of your products or services on that basis. But if you market specifically those products and services, you're likely to identify your target market, which has a unique value proposition that will speak uniquely to those customers and will bring them on board. Yeah. So customers and markets, obviously very important. For example, here there was an NPO which is with a youth centre catering for vulnerable kids. Really great piece of work, but they had facilities, very good modern facilities that could be used for other things. I mean, for instance, for small business meetings, daytime creches and aerobics classes, the rest of it, when it wasn't being used as a youth centre for vulnerable kids. So the business opportunity was to rent out the facility to users in the community, give them a clear value proposition for daytime, for instance, in the daytime creche when the facility was being underused, And it required the institution that was had these facilities to develop a range of marketing messages that signal to corporates out there or to groups out there that this facility was available and could be used, obviously, and created a business opportunity for the organisation, the MPO organisation. Okay, and then we talked about keeping score, finance, stay on top of your turnover, your profits and cash. Clearly, these things are different. One of the big areas of challenge for most MPOs is they're usually struggling for funds. They're usually, living with sort of hand to mouth. They're trying to survive as an organisation, especially, they get funding for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and all of a sudden the funding drops off. So they need to build some kind of sustainability in their funding operation, and often they're struggling to find funds. You should avoid allowing the funds from your business operation to leak into the control of the MPO, as they would those funds would get tied up in the MPO operation and tied up with regulations, and you don't want that. You want the business venture to breathe. You want to allow it to succeed and breathe and to mature. And as it matures, then it can start to push funds back into the main organisation. So the way that we suggest, things that we suggest as a minimum, is a separate accounting system so the business begins to finance itself. After the initial injection, it needs to finance itself. And the business unit needs to be slightly autonomous from the main organisation. If it doesn't do that, then you'll find that there is no proper accountability on that small business. So here's some really excellent examples. MPO providing work for and training for people with disabilities. The business idea was to create micro enterprises, vegetable garden, repair shops, etc. Because despite the disabilities, these were people who were quite well skilled. So it was easy for the MPO to set up small businesses based around specific ideas, and for each one a separate accounting system. And they were able to spin off businesses that became profitable within 2 to 3 years, and were able to become self-sustaining and allowed them to extend the work of the MPO much further. So again, some positive cases there. And then finally, we talked about strategy, that plan effectively for success that will last. Strategy develops sustainability within the organisation or the micro-organisation. The pitfall is that the MPO organisation can interfere with the goals of the micro enterprise, if you like, because it's not profit focused. It's focused on the sustainability of the MPO. And the solution is to set your own strategy. The strategy needs to be aligned with the MPO organisation, and it needs to borrow skills from the MPO organisation, but there must be a profit motivation there, and it needs to be aligned. The strategy can be aligned, but it needs to be separate, so that the profit organisation has some kind of sustainability to it. And this is obviously to the benefit of the MPO. The MPO will start to be getting regular funds from these spin-off profit micro enterprises that it sets up, runs properly, they're beginning to make a profit, and they can start feeding money back into the main MPO to help support it. A final example here is a conservation MPO making money from community-based tourism, has well-aligned values, so it's aligned with the values of the MPO, and the community benefits directly from the conservation. However, there was a mismatch because there wasn't a separate strategy, separate focus on making profit. It didn't focus on, or it didn't have within the strategy and planning interventions for customer service training and investment in maybe investment in technology that would help the little business enterprise to be more efficient. So again, I hope what you've seen there is that in all of those examples, first of all, you'll have seen that Gigonomics spiral or framework is a really very useful tool for getting your head around developing a business opportunity, for not only developing a business opportunity, but creating a sustainable organization to support that business opportunity. In the final example here, I would say that the Gigonomics framework can also be used in a diagnostic way to look at your operations at the moment to see where the weakness is and where you can strengthen those particular business opportunities. So, for instance, I've been associated with about 6 business schools in my working career, and we've used the Gigonomics tool to identify, for instance, sort of things like in a product setting, to identify new product opportunities. So in one business school, we identified that a customer service or customer experience focus and research was a way of the school providing added value into the community and creating a revenue stream from that. Similarly, with project management, we identified that project management was an area of particular weakness in one of the business schools I worked at. And by having project management training, not only a diploma, not only an academic diploma, but also boot camps for the professional qualification, focusing on specific areas like engineering, project management for engineering, or project management for IT, or project management for construction. Providing those variations allowed us to leverage on the training that we're providing, the basic training we're providing in project management, and become more specialized and deliver higher value products into the market. Another example is in the operations. We noticed in one of the business schools that the operations was very focused on undergraduate processes because it was attached and embedded within the university. And the university had overwhelming numbers of undergraduates. In fact, their processes were all focused towards undergraduates. And whereas the operations of a business school is focused on higher value customers, higher value students, but much smaller numbers. So they tended to get left out of the operational thinking of the university. So one of the things we have to do in the business school is really compensate for that and put in processes, professional processes, rather than batch processes, if you like, mass processes for large numbers of students, but professional bespoke processes for a higher value customer, but for much smaller numbers. The important thing there is that you need autonomy. You need a certain amount of autonomy to be able to do that. You know, that was one of the weaknesses there. And then in terms of human capital, we needed to, in one of the schools I worked in, we needed to recruit for customer service buyers. There was many universities have grown up outside of this customer service thinking, because remember, they're dealing with students. Students, you are, especially with undergraduate students, there's almost a kind of a parental type relationship pseudo-parental type relationship with the students. Whereas when you're dealing with business school students, it's not that at all. You're dealing with people who are having to deliver high levels of customer service in their day jobs. When they come to you, they expect the same sort of treatment. And then on the finance side, one of the schools I worked in, they had all their financing run and controlled centrally within the university. And that had to be broken because effectively stifled the development and the growth of the business school. One of the things that the university was quite poor at was actually collecting funds from students. Most of the students, and remember, a university is a social enterprise. It's assumed that the government takes on the responsibility for funding students to go to university. That's not the thinking when you run a business school. So therefore, debts that you could allow to mount up under undergraduate programs was not acceptable when you talk about postgraduate programs. And then on the strategy side, it was important that the business school has developed a separate strategy, complementary but separate strategy to the university, which is autonomous and which was put in place to ensure the continuity and sustainability of the business school. It was a profit entity, and this is important. Okay, so let me just remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that the Gigonomics course and the details of the Gigonomics course and the tools and techniques that you use within each of those 6 areas are explained in some detail in the 6 courses, 6 online courses, one for each of the areas on the spiral. 6 online courses, and totally free. If you go to the Namibia Business School website or to its a YouTube page, you'll find those courses. Just do a search on Gigonomics course, and you'll find those courses there. Highly recommended, and for anyone that's doing, as we call it, it says here, the side hustle. You know, you may have your full-time job, but you want to do something on the side, or you are thinking about branching out into something else. Maybe you've lost your main job because of COVID, and you're looking for opportunities, or you've always had a passion to do something, maybe catering, maybe jewelry making or something like that, and you want to acquire the basic essential skills that you need to be able to run those businesses successfully. The same thing, or the same rationale applies if you're a not-for-profit organization. Your funding has dried up, or potentially is going to dry up, and you're looking to create business opportunities. This course, this online course, can help you learn all the way from developing new products, identifying new products, ideation of new products, inventing new products, all the way through to delivery, engaging with the customers, recruiting staff, managing profits and finance, cash flow, your finances, and developing a strategy in which this all sits. And it will help you do all of those things and to provide you with the basic tools to be able to create a sustainable enterprise, small enterprise. Okay, with that, I will pick up any questions. I'm sorry, I should have said at the beginning that questions could have been on the chat, but I'm sure people have put stuff on chat. I will do a question and answer session now. Pick up your questions, whether via chat or directly through direct interaction. That's not a problem. But thank you very much for listening to this session. And my details are available on the website, online, on the conference website. So if anyone has any specific questions that should be addressed to me, or wants to engage with me hereafter, then please do. My email and details are available to you. Thank you very much, and I look forward to engaging with you further. Thank you.